Hi and very warm welcome. Delighted to be chatting to Typhaine, Design Director of Denton, who are a leading design and fit-out company based in London and Manchester. Excited to meet Typhaine, and she's also SCAR approved assessor, which is going to be interesting when we start picking out about planet. So great, and thank you for coming along, Typhaine. It's
Thank
lovely.
you for having me.
Very, very good to be chatting with you. So firstly, to get us kicked off, what brought you to the UK? What brought you to workspace design? How are you where you are?
So initially I came in the UK to learn the language. In France, we're not very good with the English language. Sorry if French people are listening to me.
That's fine.
But yeah, I had to learn the language to travel, etc. And I kind of fell into design and build by accident, fully. I'm trained as interior architect, and I never heard about design and build ever before. Okay. And I was just looking for a job, at least in this field, to be able to speak English and improve my English. And I found a job as a technical designer. Mm-hmm. And then this is how it started, basically.
One of the things that I think is probably most overlooked about an office, and I'm sure you deal with so many, so you're the knowledge on this, but people almost like kind of forget what the purpose is. Like, why do we have an office? Do we even need one? Like, but why? So why do people have an office?
That's a very good question, actually. It's actually a good question now that COVID has changed the way people are working. Mm-hmm. Because before, everyone was going to the office and it was kind of the normality. You go 5 days a week and it's normal. Now people are wondering what is the difference? Because I can do my work from home. Yeah. Why should I go to the office? It's like the journey is long. It cost me actually to go to the office. True. Yeah. I think it's more of a sense of community, mm-hmm. and it's collaborating with your peers that is really important now. Mm-hmm. The new workplace needs to understand that they need to attract and retain their new their employees, mm-hmm. and give them a sense of community and purpose. Mm-hmm. And people need to understand why they are in the office.
I love what you picked up about attracting and retaining talent, because I think the cost of recruiting and the cost of training people is so much, right?
Yes.
And having an office that can almost bring those brand values.
Yeah.
And so the staff are attracted and you keep them.
Yeah.
It's a massive revenue benefit for a business, just sheer money.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So that's got to be a big point. Is that something you unpack with your clients? Is that something you talk to your clients about?
Yeah. And so there are data that are proving that basically there are two generations that are quite happy with being in an office. Mm-hmm. It's the Gen Z, because everything is, at least for the first and the second year, approximately, because for them everything is new. Being in the workplace is new, it's exciting. And the second generation is actually the opposite of the spectrum, is the boomers, because they've always been in an office. Nothing is changing. It's part of their routine to be in the office, being at the desk. But then you have the whole generations in the middle, which don't really know what to do anymore, because COVID happened. They have been working in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. And they have worked in different places, so they know what they want now for their life balance, for their well-being. Mm-hmm. So now it's COVID has made our work a little bit harder. But it's amazing because now it's much more about psychology and understanding the data and what people want. And we do conduct much more surveys and we read much more data. It's also about space efficiency.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to do a lot of private offices, a lot of meeting rooms, and we would spend all the money on the front of house and then the employees would get the rest. Now it has all shifted and most of employers understand that they have to spend money on their people rather than their front of house. And you don't need that much space for a meeting room because you can have informal meeting areas instead of having a big room which is filled with 2 person.
Yeah. So what do people want? How do we attract people in? Is it different for every client?
It's a sense of purpose and community again.
Yeah.
If people really understand why they are in the office and why they are asked to be in the office, but also they have freedoms and they feel like they're heard in terms of what is going to work for them in terms of the balance.
Yeah.
But also they feel like they are part of the company and they are the one that are the energy of the company.
Yeah. I almost feel that people need to make the decision that they're coming in, like not to be told. It needs to be their choice.
No one likes to be told what to do.
Which is the difference between being told and being attracted, I guess. So you're so right when you talk about attracting talent. We have to remember the word attracting is actually attracting. It's not a force. It's a pulling magnet because you want to be there.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah, so it's about making that choice to be in the workspace stronger than the attraction to be at home or coffee shops or anywhere else, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Is there a common trend of what people want, like what you find your clients, what does attract people?
It really varies
in terms of spaces.
It varies also the type of work people are doing. We work with lawyers, marketing firm, and they all want something different. And it's also generational what people want. There are some people who are very attached to their desks, very, very attached.
Yeah.
And to their 2 screens.
I can picture the people.
I'm not gonna lie, I do like my screens. And they will not see themselves working in a different space. And you've got a new generation now that are also shaking things up because they can work from anywhere. They can work from a sofa. They just need to feel that it's the place where they decided that today they are gonna work from there. Yeah. So when we look at lawyer firm, for example, we've done one recently, and we looked at the datas of the space utilization, how much they were using their meeting rooms, their desks, but they didn't have a lot of diversity in the different type of work settings that they had.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Not diversity though. No, I mean in terms of work setting.
Yeah, their environment to work. Yeah.
And so we didn't have the data, so we had to more understand their daily work and how they were doing each tasks and what each tasks were requiring. And for example, they have to do some extremely focused task, reading papers, and replying to emails, etc. And for this, we created a room, which was a focus room, which is heavily used because this is where they can do their focus work. But they also needed to collaborate, and but collaborate in teams and with high energy. So we created this war room where you can lift the desk. Just the room is dynamic itself because you can decide what to do. You can write pretty much everywhere in the room, but it's private, obviously, because they talk about cases.
Yeah, but that is cool.
Yeah, and then you've got this whole collaboration area, which is on the ground floor for them, where they can have the sense of community and talk to everyone there. The tea point, they have like soft seating, it's more furnitures, and they have a big screen where they display, not the name of the client, obviously, but like what is happening this week, what were the achievements. And this is a sense of purpose. They understand what the company is doing, the value, what has been achieved in the quarter, and you feel proud to be working for this company.
I love that. I think, like, in a nutshell, like, we're needing to attract people back in, but to attract people, we've got to understand their needs.
Yeah.
Is what you're pretty much saying, I think. And how did you find out those needs? You didn't have the data, because they didn't have the different environments. So how did you go about collecting that data or understanding what their needs were? That's interesting.
It was a survey.
Okay.
Yeah. And we also work with a workplace consultant on this.
Okay.
And she conducted all this survey. And then we had a meeting together and just looked at everything together. And we talked a lot. This project took a lot of time to actually speak with not just the leadership, but people from every single team.
Yeah.
They had we had two groups, so the leadership board and what we call the working group. So they represent their colleagues. And it's not, and they feel like they are included in the process, and they feel that they are heard. And they are the voice of their colleagues. So they have a very important role, and they refer back to the colleagues. So this was creating a really nice energy around that project because people, even who were not on this group, felt like they were heard.
Yeah. I love what you pointed up about the time, though. I think if we actually want to get our spaces right to address people's needs and to attract them back, going back to the start, like the purpose and everything, I think we need to take serious time to really deeply understand why and what their needs are, what their challenges are. And that can easily be overlooked. Like the amount of effort that you would have put in and your team would have put in would have easily be overlooked because you just think, I just want a new office, just get one. I like the look of that one. It might look nice, but it might not meet your needs. So I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up, to not underestimate the amount of time in investigating and interviewing. It's not all just specifying pretty fabric. Actually, knowing what the challenge is and what the answers and solutions are, right?
Yeah, and what works for one company is not going to work for another. Definitely. It's very personalized, our service. We can't apply the same rules to everyone, or even to the same. If I work with another lawyer firm, we'll not apply the same system because they work differently. They have different values. Yeah, it's really the leadership board is also very important.
Okay. Why is that?
They need to understand the value of their employees and what the employees will need to be productive and perform. Sometimes we work with a lot of different clients. Sometimes it's overlooked. The board think a certain way, and they don't really look at a different way of working. They're a bit stuck in their way.
Yeah, no, I agree. The change management is a huge piece.
Yes.
I mean, that's a whole job role.
Yes. But don't get me wrong, it's really hard.
It is
because
really
if you have been working in a certain way and it works for you, you don't really know if it doesn't work for the generation, the different generations. So I think being a leader and being actually running a company now and creating an office space is really difficult, and there's a lot of pressure for the leadership.
No, I agree. It's a challenge, but having someone internally at your clients that can actually be the voice and the eyes and the ears and everything for their whole team, that's really tough, right? Because we've already said that there's loads of different generations and different ways of working and different sorts of people's different needs, and you've got to all bring that through one person. That's hard.
Yeah.
So very sympathetic, but at the same time it is the key to success, right?
Yes.
So
productivity and well-being at work.
How big is a leadership team normally that you like to work with?
So for a working group, it's nice to not have more than 10 people. It gets a bit out of hand after.
I can imagine. So it's 10 people, like with including Denton and the client, or 10 people from the client?
10 people from the client, it's a lot. I would say in total.
In total?
Yeah, in total.
No, that's good.
And because you want to hear everyone. Yeah. So we do activities. So we make sure that we've got everyone's messages.
What activities?
So for example, we'll do like the wish in the new workplace. So how do you see your new workplace? And everyone would actually, it's anonymous. Everyone will just write what they think, and then we'll just put them on the board, on the wall, read them out loud. And sometimes if we don't understand, it's what do you mean by that? Or sometimes when it's vague and we feel like there is a hidden message, we mean, what do you mean by that? And most of the time, everyone kind of interacts and respond, even if it wasn't their message initially or their little note.
Do you have to be a bit of a counsellor to do this job?
I don't know.
Sounds like because you're like really working with people, trying to understand what they mean, even if they might not say exactly that, and really getting it's like almost like a huge amount of people.
It is, but that's why it's important not to have anyone that is higher in the company, like higher level, and everyone is kind of the same level, so they feel like they can express themselves.
Yeah.
More freely, really. And then you can do that with the board and the leadership and see what is their vision of the company and what is their understanding of the company and the values and where they think the company is going to be in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are differences between the board and the employees, but sometimes it's beautiful to see that they actually are going in the same direction and they have the same values and they understand the purpose and they understand where the company is going. That is great when the exercise, like when it kind of match, it's very good to see, because that means that from the top the message is going,
Consistent.
is delivered well.
Yeah. And if there was somebody sat with us now that was a part of this leadership team looking for a new office or engaging with someone, I know every space is different. We've already covered that. But what would be the one overriding message you'd give them?
This is hard. Okay. I think you need to know the why you're doing this. Like why you're. Do you mean in moving into a new office or in general? What would be the message?
Yeah. If someone was looking to move or refurbish, and they were joining and now say I'm part of a leadership team.
Yeah.
For a new office.
So you need to, it's the why. Why you're doing this. Why you are investing so much money creating a new workplace or moving to the workplace. Mm-hmm. Why you want people to be, how you want people to collaborate and how you want people to work. But the first is why. What is the message? Do you want an office because, you want to attract new talent, retain new talent? Do you want a new office in a certain location for visibility? Like, for example, a showroom, like in Clerkenwell.
Yeah.
It's the why. And then the why will basically explain everything that you're going to do after. So you're gonna be sitting at a desk because, and it answers everything. You got your why right, you got your value right, the purpose, and you can explain to people why they are in the office and their purpose and how they are part of this company and what is their role and what the company is demanding of them, but also what is the company going to give them.
Yes. It's a two-way thing.
Yes.
But I love that. I love that about the why. I think that's a really great takeaway for anyone listening. Tiff's point about understanding why you're doing it. Just literally, that is so deep and there's so much in that we can learn. So that's a brilliant answer. So we've got the purpose and we've got the why for our office sorted. That's nice and grounded. That's great. We've got to find a space. We've got to find a location. What's important to consider?
In terms of location?
Yeah.
The location needs to represent the company. But for your employees, it needs to be close to a station or a proximity to a station. Because we know that this is why people don't really like to work from home, because that means they don't have to commute. And for some people, the commute is really long. So you need to be next to a station. You need to have all the amenities really around you. Like restaurant, cafes, so people can nip in and out. But it's for some companies that means also having a park so people can just take time for themselves. Green space, exactly. But what is important as well for example, for you, we were talking about the showroom. You are here in Clerkenwell because it's the place, and there is the buzz around this place is because it's design-orientated place and area, and it's the place to be. And it was the case like 10, 20 years ago for banking. It was Canary Wharf. Is where your network and your company, the type of company you should be.
Yeah, a bit like if you're a large fashion clothing brand, you need to be on Oxford Street or Regent Street. It's just like, you just need to be there.
Yes,
So
exactly.
a lot of it is about just like putting your stamp, putting your visibility,
Yeah.
and then obviously accessibility, green
Yes,
space.
accessibility and green space. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. And do you have much experience with contextual design? So everything from outside of the building, so people's journeys in, or is everything interior within Denton?
So when we do the studies, for example, when someone is looking for a new office, we'll look as well the journey of the employees. And that can tell you as well, so this person is not going to be in the office 5 days a week because they have a 2 hours commute. So it doesn't really make sense. They'll get tired. Their productivity is going to lower down because they have a long journey and because they'll be tired from it. So we try to study this as well, just to give the leadership board a bit of an idea of, okay, this person will waste, I don't know, like 10 hours in commuting every day. And this person, it takes them 45 minutes to come to work. It's my case. It's amazing.
Lucky you. Mine's not too bad, actually.
Yeah.
So it's true. You don't stick around if it's terrible, would you?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think I didn't miss your question, and I didn't.
No, that's good. How do you collect that data though?
We just do a survey.
Okay.
Basically, how long is your commute every day?
Okay.
It's also important because it gives you some data about we are looking at carbon emission for the companies, and that gives you the carbon emission. If someone has to take his car for an hour and then commute by train and then walk from the station, what is their carbon emission to come to work? And more the companies wants to reduce, company wants to be carbon net zero.
Yeah.
And by 2050 we are 2030, and then 2050 we need to achieve these goals. So
that's a really valid point, that people taking an office now, they will be in that same space they could potentially be in the same space in 2030 quite easily. And so that they've considered the carbon of the journey of their people that's a great point. I hadn't considered that, so that's interesting. And do people put enough emphasis on looking at smart buildings? When I say smart, I mean using natural ventilation and solar panels for sort of renewable energy, etc. Is that something that people consider? Or?
Yes, more and more. We're doing, well, our part of our ESG policy anyway is to, when we create an office, is to make sure that we've got, we're doing the right thing in terms of mechanical services. I'm not going to bother you with all of this, but materials, etc., and life cycles of materials. So this is part of our ESG. So we do that on any project anyway.
Okay,
and then you have more and more clients that are looking at scab, BREEAM, and companies now needs to have an ESG policy and needs to show their employees what they are doing in terms of our environment. And regarding smart building, more and more buildings in London are smart buildings. When we look at 21 Bishopgate, etc., it's amazing. And we also work with landlords that are refurbishing their building, old building, and they are looking. Most of them are looking to do the right thing. I don't think they'll have the choice anyway in the future.
No, that's true. I was actually just wondering, it's probably an idiot question, but I was wondering, a new building like Bishopsgate's fine because that's just gone up and that's smart, but there's plenty of buildings that are up years ago that aren't smart. Do they have to get knocked down, or can they be refurbished and smart be brought into it?
I guess that depends on the building, but I think they can be made at least smarter.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to make it smart, a smart building, because the construction is already done. Yeah. But you look at some old building, actually, they've been built really well and already in kind of a sense of sustainability, even if it wasn't the main concern at the time. It was more durability, but durability is part of sustainability.
Longevity.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, not just replacing it all the time, timeless and
exactly.
Yeah, stand the test of time. That's interesting. And as a smart, got that word on the brain, as a SCAR assessor, what do you look at in a building then? Is there any sort of key points?
Yeah, we look at the environment. Where is the building positioned?
Yeah.
Again, what is the journey for the employees? Is there a station around? And basically, it's points.
Yeah. But scoring points.
Yeah, it's a scoring measure. So we'll look at the quality, but we also look at what is already there, what can be reused. So we do an audit of, for example, I'm going to say something a bit random, but there is a door. This door is a certain size and it looks terrible. What can we do to actually reuse this door instead of just throwing it in the landfill? What is really important about this car approach is throwing as little as possible in landfill.
It's like a whole audit on everything that's existing.
Yes.
What can be reused?
It can be, this door might be reused, for example, to create a new table, or it can be reused in a completely different way.
Yeah, a really creative approach.
Yes. And I think this is the future. It's the future for the environment and the workplace, is how, instead of throwing everything, how can we reuse and just spend more time up front looking at what is already there. And sometimes it's hard because in design and build, everything is so fast, that we don't look at, it's easier to just put everything new, but it's not the right approach anymore.
No.
Well, it's never been, but now we know that it's not the right approach.
Yeah. So you've got the building sorted in the commute, and you've done your assessment, your audit, if you like, and you know what can be reused and you know what has to be recycled. From the point of view of like the design and the actual fit out of a space, being a SCAR assessor, is there any other points that I would have to consider as a client doing a fit out?
Yeah, it's for every product that we look at. Obviously, there are the PDs, etc.
Are they necessary?
They are.
Yeah.
They are necessary because we need to have the data about the product.
Yeah, okay.
And as soon as we've got the data, we'll know if this product is actually sustainable, because you can have an EPD, but actually the product is not sustainable.
Okay.
So an EPD is just for SCAR. It helps having an overview of how the product is made, what is the CO2 consumption, the life cycle, etc. It just gives us a lot of information.
But it doesn't mean it's necessarily good.
No.
Okay.
No. It's just we need it at the moment. So we have this big database of everyone's product. So then, as soon as we've got that, we'll be able to differentiate
Yeah.
which product is sustainable, which one is not.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not like that. That's a tick box. You then have to still work and read that EPD and really understand.
Yes.
Are they easy to read?
No.
I thought so.
No, they're not.
So you've got, yeah, keep talking to me about like the internal fit out, because I cut across you there asking about EPDs, but I'm sorry, but that was interesting. So I'm glad you opened that up. You're doing your fit out as a SCAR assessor. What are the other points you consider?
It's mainly what is not visible, actually. The mechanical system it's really important within the space, making sure that we've got the right amount of fresh air, but it's also not polluting, making sure that the system that is in place is not emitting too much particles, etc. And it's actually helping the environment. We look at VOC's emission as well. We know that we live in London. It's fairly polluted in here, and the quality of the air it's really important. If you spend, I don't know, 8 hours in a space and it feels stuffy, you feel like you can't do your work properly because it gets too hot and then it gets too cold. So we are looking at this. We are looking at lighting and efficiency, again, in the lighting. We're looking at circadian lighting more and more. They are becoming a bit more price reasonable.
Yeah, okay.
But there used to be a technology that was quite expensive. Now we are looking at it more and more because it's part of the well-being within the workplace. If you can make sure that your employees are feeling great, is the most important. So air quality, lighting, biophilia.
What is biophilia? Is it just plants?
Biophilia is more of a... No, biophilia is not just plant.
Okay.
It is in a way, it is just plant. But it's more giving people the sense of nature. It doesn't have to be plant, but making sure that they have... You spend 8 hours and it can be a concrete building. If you've got no idea what it is outside and if it's still day or daylight or night, but you've got a sense of nature inside. It's calming. It makes you more grounded. It's more of a... biophilia is more of a well-being approach than just putting plants for the sake of putting plants.
No, that's good.
It's an approach to nature within the...
So it can be brought in multiple different surfaces, multiple different ways, like lighting and sunlight and views to outside, etc. It's not just putting some plants in. I find that the whole world of sustainability, there's so many certifications, and we've already touched on EPDs, and like you don't find them easy to read, and you're a SCAR assessor. Like, imagine me. Do you know what I mean? So what would your advice be to a client if they want to deliver a sustainable project? What is your advice? Is there a particular certification or anything you would advise them to start off at?
It's a good question. I think you need to surround yourself with professional, but understand really what sustainability means. Sustainability is not, for example, in a building, if we know that this building needs to last for, 20 years, or even more, and you better have like a hard floor, like a marble rather than a carpet, because you have to change it. Maybe your carpet you'll have to change it every 5 years, and your marble you won't have to change it at all. It's more understanding how the space is going to be used, so you can use the materials that are working for that space. So in terms of the approach, for our client, they need to understand really what sustainability is, and surround yourself with professional and listen, but you need to inform yourself. It's very, very interesting topic, actually. It was a very interesting conversation to talk about circularity and what it is for different people.
Yeah, and what sustainability is, because we use the words a bit interchangeably.
Yes. I think we overuse the word sustainability.
Yeah.
Massively.
Why?
Because we feel like every time something is recycled, it's sustainable. But if you actually don't understand what you're going to do with this product and how you're going to use this product, it might not be sustainable. It's like we were talking about the fabric bricks.
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
The fabric bricks. So if you look at this pair of jeans, if you throw them in landfill, they're not sustainable. But if you know that this particular jean is going to be then used and shredded and used to create the bricks, and the bricks are going to be used in an office or in an artwork, this product has another life, it is becoming sustainable. But also we were talking about the use. So it might be sustainable to use a certain product that is actually not recyclable or recycled, but because it's going to be used in a certain way, it is actually sustainable.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. But it's what you said is, I think you hit the nail on the head, because it's a mindset and it's almost a system rather than a product. Because if the store you bought those jeans from had a take back scheme that then shredded them down, made them into new jeans, trainers, and whatever, that turns it into a circular, sustainable, I don't know what word to use now, approach. But it's not the product that is, it's the system.
Yes.
So that's really, I think we're on the tip of an iceberg of quite a big conversation that's going to start unraveling, like from the difference between sustainable and circular, and what we need, because we really need to get to circular.
Yes.
We really need to get everything in an infinite loop, right?
Yes.
So no, that's cool.
If we don't create more and we don't throw more, we are going to be a very sustainable new generation. But if we continue to produce more and more and more and throw more and more, but also it's funny because we talk about circular, but you might also reuse something or create something new. But if you have to burn to create this new material, it's also not very sustainable because you are rejecting a lot of CO2. So it's also, what do you do?
It's the process.
It's the process and it's the approach.
It's the system, it's the process, it's the mindset. It's so much more than the product and the material and the logistics. So if it's got to go on a long journey to go on its recycling journey, that's not sustainable. It's all circular. So
you need to look at every single step of the product and the use of the product, and every single step is important.
So how do you design timelessly so that, because trends mean things go out of fashion and then they get chucked away.
Mm-hmm.
So that design needs to be super timeless, really, I guess. How do you do that?
Well, I hope I'm doing it first.
I'm sure you are.
Maybe you should ask my client. How do you? I think it's design is very personal.
Yes.
And what is timeless for you might not be timeless for someone else.
True. Valid.
So it's a very good question, but yeah, I think it needs to. I like simplicity. Simplicity and use of most of the time materials that are more natural. The natural approach for me is the most. It's not gonna go out of fashion, and it's. What was the word you use? Sorry.
Timeless.
Timeless. Yes.
Yeah, we do find that like materials that are, you've already mentioned marble, that are long lasting, hard wearing, the trends don't change as much because they're a lot longer lasting. You don't need to replace it. So like hardwoods and marbles, etc., tend to find that the more timeless, if that's the right word, and they don't get changed out as much, which is truly sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm. But those materials are quite neutral and inoffensive. There's a different. Sometimes some company wants to be timeless, and sometimes some company wants to have a visual impact. So that depends what they are looking for. But I think timeless is it's different for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's very valid. We can have the prettiest space in the world.
Yeah.
And we can have it in the perfect location, and we can also have the most sustainable place in the world, like as circular as you like, or whatever the words are. But if the people aren't using it and benefiting from it and becoming better versions of themselves, being more productive, being more creative, flourishing in their career, all the rest of it, and it's not sustainable because it's a waste of doing it in the first place. There's no point having the location. All your why and purpose is out the window. So the people are really like the engine of a space.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm very passionate about that and seeing people become the best version of themselves. You kind of touched on it earlier, but how do you understand what people's needs are and what they need to get from the office? Do you actually look into their career and their career journeys, or?
We are helped with data and surveys, really.
Yeah.
It's the only way. We can't go to a company that have 200, 300, 400 employees and ask individually what is the perfect workplace for them. So we are really helped by the data, and we have, if it's a really big company, we'll have also help from workplace consultants.
Okay.
It's their daily job is to look and understand the data that we receive, because sometimes we also lack time to analyze it, because it's great to have all the data, but if you actually don't understand how to look at it and take the time to look at it, these data are wasted. And that's why we have most of the time 2 different groups in our process. We've got the working group and we've got the leadership group, because they represent different employees and they want different things. Yeah, it's I'm sorry to repeat myself, but it's just the data again. Like, the more data we have, the more we understand the company, the values, and sometimes the 10 years plan, 20 years plan, the more they can tell us and the more they can give us, and the more they are willing to share with us, the better understanding we have, and the more we can try to design and make sure that the place is designed just for them and for the employees' requirements, and to improve their productivity, really.
What does change people's productivity?
But you've got a lot of things, like your personal life will impact on your productivity. The way you feel. You even have like chemicals reaction, like hormones. You've got it's a lot of things that impacts the way you feel and how you're productive, and it's the colleagues, I think, as well. How you collaborate with your colleagues, but also if you feel like you're close to them, and you. But it's also some colleagues will push you to be a better version of yourself because you compete with them. It's a lot of things. So that's why in the workplace you need to make sure that people have the space to be who they are. If they don't feel like talking today because at home it's been difficult, they haven't slept because they have a baby, for example, and they just need to be left alone in their place. So we make sure that we have all these spaces that support individuality, and make sure and respect how people feel.
Yeah, I like that we design for everybody's individuality. I like how you put that. And we have these different zones for different, depending on how people are in their space. What are the sort of most commonly used zones in an office?
I'd say the breakouts, but again, that will depend of the company.
Yes.
And the values and like the energy of the company.
Yeah.
Otherwise, at the moment, obviously the Teams rooms, etc.
Yeah.
They're heavily used. So where you can collaborate and have a sense of community and socialize, and where you can be by yourself and have the time for yourself and silence, really.
Yeah, that's great. And can we, through design, how do we impact people's well-being positively?
The acoustic.
Yeah.
It's really important.
How does that change people's well-being?
Making sure that, for example, you're in a meeting room and you are not heard on the other side.
Yeah.
Making sure that, for example, in here, we can talk and it's the sound is amazing, and you feel closer and you listen more carefully. But in a collaboration space or a breakout, you need to make sure that there is noise and it's not just a sound box. So you can talk to someone and you're not overheard, because you can have talk to your colleague and who you're closer with, and you need to make sure that the person next to you is not listening to the conversation. So there is a need for ambient sound behind, background sound. the acoustic is really important. Understand it and making sure it's used in a correct way. You don't want to make your breakout like a soundproof. Like if I speak, everyone else can hear it over there.
Yeah, because a focus booth, it can be completely soundproof. That's fine.
Yeah,
that works. But a breakout space needs that kind of energy and that vibe and that hum.
Yeah,
So,
and you need the background noise to make sure that actually each conversation are kind of not private, but
people can have their personal chats.
Yeah.
Got the coffee shop vibe. No, that's great.
So there is acoustic, really important. Again, lighting. Again, the sense of pavilion, nature.
That's great. And does fragrance have anything to do with how we?
That's interesting, because the sense of nature, etc., that can be brought up with fragrance.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But it's very dangerous, I think.
Okay.
Because what a smell that identifies or is a memory for someone can be a completely different experience for someone else.
Yes. So it recalls memories differently for different people, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think senses are, and something that smells great for you might not smell so great for me. That's why you've got like 1 million of candles makers at the moment. And everyone is wearing different perfume and
is it too personal to bring that into the office?
I think it's quite personal. I think it's fine for an hotel.
Yeah.
Because it feels homely. I think this is what they are creating. In an office, it might be distracting. I'm not against the idea. I think it's a very, very interesting point, and it's very delicate. Because it can be received differently. And experienced differently by different people.
Yeah. When people are attracting talent, is well-being the most? Is that one of the top points for attracting talent?
Yes, it's one of the top for sure. But people also need to see how they can progress in this company.
Okay, so career.
How can they be trained? What the company is going to do for them. If I go I work for Denton, and I need to make sure that Denton have my best interest at heart, make sure that they want to train me so I become the best version of myself. And I think this is what is important for employees.
So do we design in training spaces?
Yeah, we do more and more. Training doesn't have to be in-house all the time. You can have training outside of your office. It makes, I think, the experience more enjoyable, personally.
If you leave the office?
Yes. I mean, you get your training on daily basis from your managers, etc. I think also training outside the office on different subjects is important. It doesn't have to be always fully related to what you're doing. It just needs to be something that is gonna make you grow and make you become a better version.
The best environment for
yes.
It, right? Yeah. So where did you do your SCAR training?
Actually, we did it in the IDRC center. We did it in a meeting room. It was 14 of us, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite a good sized class.
Yeah. It was very interesting.
And how long did that take?
So it took a few months. But we went. I don't want to. I think we went 4 times for a day, and then we had discussions and we had homeworks and
Okay, interesting.
and it's much more we learned the basics, and then it was more doing the homeworks to really understand the process.
So how long does that take in all, like in the whole process?
I think it took us. It's been a year and a half ago. I should remember. It's not that that far actually. A lot happened in 1 year and a half. I think 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 4 months.
But Denton have really actually enabled you to become
yes,
to develop and become a better person with that training, haven't they? So
it's in my interest, but it's in their interest. The more I'm trained, the better I'm becoming at my job.
It's really easy when we're chatting about people to think about the generic population as sort of able-bodied and everything, but inclusivity of all types. So how do you design inclusively?
So this is a great question actually, because we try to at Denton, but I'm pretty sure my peers are doing the same. We try to design for everyone. And now designing for everyone means accessibility to T-points. We often also think about disability as motor disability, but there are lots of disabilities. So yes, we accessible, T-point accessible, phone rooms. We needed to make sure of the colors and the colors differences.
So high contrast?
Yes, high contrast, but also textures. So when we design, we need to take this in consideration. Obviously we need to have the accessible T-point, making sure that we've got the opening underneath the sink, etc., the right height. But it's much more than this, and basically designing for all circumstances and all everybody.
That's really interesting. So you're doing high contrast in color, and you play a lot more with texture?
Yes. So for example, when you arrive in the breakout, you've got a different texture. So you know that you are entering. Yes, on the floor. When you know that you're entering the breakout, for example, it sounds as well. There are more and more. The technology is evolving so much now. When you arrive in front of the T-point, you basically have a sensor underneath the cupboard, and that will tells you are in front of a bin, in front of the coffee machine, etc. It's amazing what we can do now.
It's incredible. And do you have to have consultants on that, or is that something that you...
Yes, we had to have consultants, especially for the lighting level, and making sure there are no glare at all. But on this project, we had so many different areas. For example, the dogs area. Yeah, it was very interesting project. One of my colleagues, Ben, was working on it. I was getting the information from him, and I was very interested by this project.
So that was quite a specific project where it obviously had a lot of visually impaired people, I assume. But then in the modern workspace, there could be...
It can be applied.
It might only be 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, but you need to make sure that we actually design for everyone.
Yeah.
because we are lucky to be very healthy right now, but things can change quite quickly. We also have a population that is, we are working longer and longer, and people are getting older, and the population is getting older.
I see what you mean, yes.
So we need to make sure that everyone is the office is serving everyone.
That's really interesting. Thank you for bringing in about disability and wider than just the motor. That's really like to consider further from like mute and visually impaired, etc. That's really great. So thanks, Tiff. I want to thank you very much for joining the Space by Stanson's podcast. And it's a real pleasure to chat to you and found your whole insights regarding sustainability really interesting too. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.